In the ever-evolving world of morning television, where consistency and familiarity often define success, it doesn't take a dramatic announcement or shocking revelation to capture public attention. Sometimes, all it takes is a subtle shift, a moment that feels just slightly different from the usual rhythm. And that's exactly what happened recently on Live with Kelly and Mark, as Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos found themselves at the center of unexpected buzz. There was no breaking scandal, no headline-making confession, no major change announced on air. Yet somehow, viewers couldn't stop talking. For years, Kelly Ripa has been a familiar face in American households. Her presence on morning television has always been defined by energy, wit, and a sense of relatability that resonates deeply with audiences. When Mark Consuelos officially joined her as co-host, the transition felt natural. After all, their real-life relationship brought an authenticity that few television partnerships can replicate. Together, they created something unique, a blend of professional hosting, genuine marital chemistry, in a relaxed conversational tone. This dynamic quickly became the heart of the show. But with consistency comes expectation, and when something feels even slightly different, people notice. During a recent episode, viewers began picking up on something subtle. It wasn't anything obvious. There was no single clip that clearly defined the shift, no viral quote, no standout segment. Instead, it was a feeling, a slightly softer tone, a quieter exchange, a pause that lingered just a bit longer than usual. At first, it was easy to miss, but as the episode went on, that subtle difference became more noticeable. And by the time the show ended, social media had already begun reacting. It didn't take long for viewers to share their thoughts online. Comments started appearing across platforms. Did anyone else feel like today's show was different? The energy felt more calm than usual. Not in a bad way, just different. It felt more real somehow. Interestingly, the reactions weren't negative. If anything, they reflected curiosity. Viewers weren't concerned, they were intrigued, because what they witnessed wasn't a problem, it was a shift in tone. In television, especially daily live shows, audiences become deeply familiar with patterns. They know how hosts interact, when jokes typically land, the usual pace of conversation. So when something changes, even slightly, it stands out. That's what made this moment so compelling. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet. And that quietness made it feel real. Some viewers described the episode as feeling more grounded. Instead of the usual fast-paced rhythm, there seemed to be more space between conversations, slightly deeper exchanges, a more relaxed atmosphere. For a show known for its lively energy, this created a noticeable contrast. But instead of turning viewers away, it drew them in. In today's fast-moving media environment, audiences are constantly exposed to high-energy content. Everything is louder, faster, more dramatic. So when something slows down, even briefly, it creates a different kind of impact. That's exactly what happened here. This wasn't about spectacle, it was about presence, and viewers felt it. One of the biggest strengths of Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos has always been their authenticity. They don't feel like just co-hosts, they feel like real people sharing real moments. And in this particular episode, that authenticity seemed to come through even more strongly. There was no need for over-the-top reactions, no forced energy, just natural conversation. And sometimes that's more powerful than anything scripted. As clips and discussions spread online, the conversation grew. But what's interesting is that the buzz wasn't driven by controversy, it was driven by curiosity. People weren't asking what went wrong, they were asking, did you feel that too? That kind of engagement is rare because it's not based on negativity, it's based on shared experience. Moments like this highlight something important about long-running shows.
It's not just about content, it's about connection. Viewers don't tune in every day just for headlines or segments. They tune in for familiarity, for comfort, for the feeling of spending time with people they recognize. And when that feeling shifts, even slightly, it becomes meaningful. In a world where breaking news often means something big, loud, or shocking, this moment proved something different, that subtlety can still capture attention, that quiet moments can still go viral, that not everything needs to be dramatic to matter. At the core of everything is the relationship between Kelly Ripa and Mark Consuelos. Their dynamic isn't built on performance alone, it's built on history, on shared experiences, on real-life connection. And sometimes that connection shows up in unexpected ways, not through big gestures, but through small, quiet moments. As of now, there's no official statement or explanation, and honestly, there doesn't need to be, because this wasn't about something going wrong, it was about something feeling different. And sometimes that's enough. Viewers will continue watching, not to find answers, but to see what comes next. In the end, there was no dramatic headline, no unexpected announcement that changed everything in an instant. No moment designed to shock, surprise, or dominate the news cycle. And yet, something about it lingered. Something about it stayed with people long after the episode ended. Because what viewers witnessed wasn't loud, it wasn't fast, it wasn't designed to go viral. It was something much quieter than that. A subtle shift, a softer tone, a different kind of presence that gently replaced the usual rhythm of the show. And somehow, that was enough. Enough to make people pause, enough to make them wonder, enough to make them feel like they had just seen something real. In a world where everything often feels rushed, where conversations move quickly and moments are easily forgotten, this stood out for a completely different reason. It slowed things down. It created space, space for small pauses, space for natural reactions, space for something that didn't feel planned or rehearsed. And maybe that's why it resonated so deeply, because it didn't try to be anything more than what it was. There was no pressure to perform, no need to fill every second with energy or excitement, just a moment unfolding naturally. And in that simplicity, there was something powerful, something honest, something human. For longtime viewers, it was a reminder of why they started watching in the first place. Not for the big moments, not for the headlines, but for the connection, for the feeling of familiarity, for the sense that even through a screen, there was something genuine being shared. And this time, that feeling came through in a slightly different way, a quieter way, a more grounded way. It didn't demand attention, it didn't ask to be noticed, but it was. Because authenticity has a way of standing out, even when it's subtle, even when it's quiet, even when it's not trying to be seen. And perhaps that's what made this moment so meaningful. It reminded viewers that not everything needs to be amplified to matter, that not every moment needs to be turned into a spectacle, that sometimes the smallest changes can create the biggest impact. Moments like these don't rely on drama. They don't depend on surprise. They simply exist. And in existing, they connect. They stay with people. They create a feeling that's hard to explain, but easy to recognize. A feeling of something real, something unfiltered, something that doesn't happen all the time. And maybe that's why so many people noticed. Not because they were told to, not because it was trending, but because they felt it, in their own way, at their own pace, without needing an explanation. And as the show came to an end, there were no answers to give, no conclusions to draw. Just a quiet understanding that something had shifted, even if only for a moment. And maybe that's enough. Because in the end, it's not always the loudest moments that stay with us. It's the quiet ones, the unexpected ones, the ones that don't try too hard, yet somehow mean the most. And long after everything moves on, those are the moments we remember.